Good evening, everyone. My name is Yashasvini, and we are here for the next video interview for Success and Ability, the magazine from Ability Foundation. We have with us today Dr. Sruti Mohapatra, the founder and head of Swabiman, a registered non-profit and Odisha's first cross-disability organization. Dr. Shruti and Swabiman have been a part of the disability rights movement through many milestones, including the amendment of the RTE Act, census enumeration of the disabled, accessible elections in India, and the RPWD Act of 2016. Swabiman focuses on creating a rights-based environment in India for people with disabilities. Dr. Shruti has been the recipient of numerous awards, including the Coven Care Ability Special Recognition Award in 2018, and also recently the Nari Shakti Puraskar for 2021 from the President of India on Women's Day, March 8th. Thank you so much for joining us today, ma'am, and congratulations on the recognition.
Thank you, Yashasvini. Namaskar to all.
My first question to you, ma'am, is about your journey. So much of the work that you have done has been based on the value of nothing for us without us. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the journey so far and what the future holds for you and the sector.
Sure, Yashasvini. I'm quite happy to be sharing with you some moments from this journey. And a disability, when I entered the movement, I'm taking you back to the year 1987 when I met with the accident and became disabled. I moved from one side of the table to the other side. And suddenly I realized that I was not an acceptable human being anymore. My only identity remained a wheelchair or discussions about a hospital or rehabilitation and such kind of things which are not very acceptable to me. So I devoured books. I love to read. So my first interest, even in the hospital when I was getting rehabilitated in Vellore, CMCH Vellore, was, can you give me books? I want to know what is my condition, what has happened to me. And then my sister, who just got married and moved to the US, she sent me, we did not have internet and computers also, you can say. So largely, I built up my knowledge by reading a lot of magazines and books that my sister sent me from the US. And then in 1996 in India, the Disabled People's International India chapter was started in Siliguri. And that's when I directly got involved with the disability movement. Prior to it, it had been a brief introduction with Javed. I had met him first, and that's how the involvement with the protest march for the PWD Act 1995, in which we were involved, you can say, in writing and in letters and those kind of things. But the actual involvement of understanding my rights and fighting for my rights, it all started with participating in various international meetings, workshops, training programs. And I have very fond memories of the early years when the three of us, Jayshree, Raveendran, myself, and Javed Abidi, we used to sit and over dinner and late into the night talk about the sector, talk about how, not the sector, per se, but how our rights, we're all educated and we are all taxpayers, we are being treated so badly. And there were two other people also who were there with us very briefly. One was Anuradha Mohit, and earlier to her briefly was Mr. Vikram Dutt also, and there were many other people. So the biggest problem, and the three of us, you can practically say with Anuradha Mohit, we actually, it began, what you call the cross disability movement and bringing people together and thinking about the big things like the census and accessibility in schools and accessibility in colleges and universities, because that was my passion area. because I had been a topper and gold medalist in the university, but after my accident, when I went back to do my MPhil and PhD, I suffered a lot, faced many barriers. So the situation then, SSV, was there was no visibility of disability, number one. Number two, all issues of disability were confined to one department. And this department was in most of the states was the Women and Child Development Department. Disability was parked there. So it did not get any priority, and WCD department in itself had a huge mandate. It had children, it had women, and was taking care of, they were also taking care of drug, the addiction and rehabilitation, the elderly, everything, transgenders. So disability was no priority for anyone. So today, when you ask me to look back, I can say somewhere I have played a role in making disability visible. Number two, somewhere all of us, those who were there in the early days of the movement, we have been able to make people think about disability, not as something which is parked in WCD department, not as a group of people who need rehabilitation and assistive devices, but as human beings who need to be educated, who have other needs like traveling. They need to go in a bus, need to go in a train. If there is a park, if there is a recreation, a cinema hall, they need to be part of it. If there is a church, a mosque, or a temple, they have every right to go there. So, and I also feel happy that when you look at this year, when we are talking about the Sustainable Development Goals, and the tagline is "Leave no one behind," and in 2030, we are looking at disaggregated data in a huge number. Somewhere I have led the movement. We have been in the forefront. We have led the movement so that India today has strong rights-based laws, and India is looking at inclusion in every aspect. So that's a good thing. But I will also tell you about the other aspect. In 2018, we had done an extensive campaign, right? 1995 law, I personally feel, could not achieve what it could have because the law did not reach people, right? So unless the people for whom it is meant, their family members, the people who work for them, the NGOs, the non-profits, all of them read and understand the law, how will they use the law? So 2016, we in Odisha, we have a network called as Odisha State Disability Network. We all got together, we decided, no, this people must read this law, they must know the law. So a two-pronged approach. One is people with disabilities must know the law. Second, who provide them services, who are decision makers, they must know the law. So in 2018, we did an extensive campaign, and in a 45 days period, we reached about 5 lakh of people, covering all 30 districts of Odisha, going to the remote blocks and villages. But what is the problem? So why is the UNESCO report N for Nose giving such a dismal picture? Or why Disability and Development Report of the United Nations, the first after the SDGs came out, giving such a dismal picture of disability in India? When we have so many strong laws, we have the Right to Education Amended Act. Now we have the National Education Policy. We have an Accessible India campaign. We have RPWD Act. So what is the issue? When we dig deeper, now I see, now the role is what we have, all of us have to do is awareness, awareness, awareness. Number one is awareness. We have to take this law in different formats. See, if you come to Odisha, I go to Bangalore now, I don't know Kannada. So you ask me to give my matriculation exam and then you tell me you're failed. I haven't failed. I did not know the language to write it. Or you come to Odisha and you suffered the same fate. So we have to change this. We have to make the law available to the illiterate in easy format with pictures so that it can also be read by the autistic and the intellectually disabled. We have to provide a lot of signages, pictures, braille. We have to use the folk art forms. You know what we did in Odisha? Because when we started talking about the law in the first 2 districts, we found after some time, 5 minutes, people were losing interest. Immediately we reconvened. We brought in all the folk art forms of Odisha. Every district of Odisha has a unique folk art form. So we use that folk art form called as such as palla, chadhe ani dance, and use the folk art forms to dance the act, to mime the act, to sing the act. And we found people stayed there for a long time listening to the act. And now government is doing it in all its camps. Government is using the postcard. And local markets. Local markets are a lovely place where you can just paint a lot of this act. So we took Odisha's most traditional art form, which is internationally famous, right? The Raghurajpur art form, miniature art. We took that and we made our posters out using that art form. Colorful, bright, from Odisha. People in Odisha could relate to it. So these are innovative mechanisms all of us have to use in every state of India to reach to the last village, but the last person with disability lives and they understand the law. That's one thing we have to do. Second, I have seen in the United States, if you go to the Europe, universities, they wear certain fulcrums of change. So when academia gets involved, in India, if you look at research, if you look at publications, it is extremely weak when it comes to disability. If you look at the television programs, radio programs, you find more number of programs showing how heroic we are, or how the society has been villainous towards us, how evil they have been. But you don't find an interesting debate on budget and how much was allocated for disability. You don't find an interesting television program on schools and colleges who are developing their special resource centers or about the resource teacher for the disabled. So those kind of academic discussions are what we need. So somehow we have to reach to the HRD, the Ministry of Education, the departments of education in every state, and we have to request and sit and negotiate with UGC that for next 3 years at least, there must be a campaign. We have the Accessible India campaign. So let us have a campaign where every college, every university which is getting funding, they must ensure that every PhD, every MPhil dissertation, every graduate student's internship, everything is focused around disability. Inclusion in sports, women and disability, on violence, any department which is studying gender studies department, that year for the next 3 years focusing only on issues of women with disabilities. Sociology department focusing on the status of people with disabilities in the society. We do this kind of things, and the whole of India, the libraries, the browsers, the webs, the e-content, it gets rich. You have lot of information, lot of authentic studies on disability. And when academia is involved, when there is cerebral involvement, suddenly you will find there is a growing interest. Suddenly you will find lot of availability of material in disability. That coupled with awareness will definitely help, because I tell this to everybody, these are amazing times. The international governments, the national government, they're all in sync. They all are looking at disability from the development perspective, and all are looking at it from human rights perspective. Today, if people with disabilities miss the bus, we are never going to board it again. So we have to make the best of the opportunity. We have to make sure if we have a good law, everybody knows the law. We have to make sure that a government officer sitting in a sarpanch's office, in a village, in a sarpanch's office, understands that when he is giving a disability pension, it's not doing out of charity. He's doing it because hundreds of years of discrimination has reduced opportunities for this person with disability. So all that he is doing by giving this disability pension, he is leveling the playing field for that disabled person. Once this gets into our psyche, we're not doing favors. We are not positively discriminating against the disabled. What we are doing is hundreds of years of discrimination. We are leveling the playing field and giving them opportunities.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was a 15-minute summary of so many years of history in the disability sector.
Thank you.
so much to learn from the journey that you and the others who've been at the forefront have been on. My last question for you this evening has to do with something closer to home for us. The Kavinkar Ability Awards has been a feature of the sector for 20 years now, and you were the recipient of the Special Recognition Award in 2018. I just
Yes.
wanted your thoughts on the initiative and how it ties into the larger sector and its importance.
When I attended Kavinkar Award, I was the ceremony. I mean, I knew about it. I have been involved with it, so it was not a new place or a new award that I was coming to, event I was coming to. But what I really admire about Jayshree and her vision is the involvement of large number of people who are not disabled, who are not working in the disability sector. So that is what all of us should be doing. Involve every section of the society in your activity, that disability becomes a very normal, functional thing in everybody's life, in everybody's work area. Recognition is important. You see, in 32 years, almost 27 years of activism here in India, this is the first time I have won a lot of awards, a little close to maybe 75, including CNN, IBN, and some very good literary awards here in the state of Odisha. But a national recognition came my way only after a long, long period of 27 years of active work in the field, and it gave me joy. Why joy? Because here there is finally a recognition that yes, somebody has been toiling, somebody has been working, and here I did not fill up a form, or I never applied. So when your work starts speaking for you, it is definitely a moment of good. But more important than that for me was the Women and Child Development Ministry coming forward with this. Getting a reward from my department is okay, because my department deals with disability. This is what all of us in the sector have been saying. All ministries, all departments should recognize disability. And what Ability Foundation's award has done is, it has given people joy. It has given people motivation. It has given people a confidence, others, the people who see it. It has given them a confidence that yes, if I toil hard, if I do something which is good for me, if I excel in my work field, if I work for others, then someday I will also be on that dais receiving an award. And the glamour that Ability Foundation has always attached to the award ceremony in terms of a classical performance, or bringing in artists from different fields, that is what which has really made this award very, very special for me.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was wonderful speaking with you this evening, and we are very, very glad to have you join us on the journey that Ability Foundation is on, for us to join you. After all, we are in this together. Thank you so much, ma'am. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.